November 23rd, 2014, from Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois. It was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Chicago Bears. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the toss and they elected to defer, so the Bears would take over first, and on their first possession, they would go 3 and out. So now Tampa would take over for the first time in this game. They had the ball on their own 20, and on 3rd and 9 from the 21, McCown went to Vincent Jackson for a 12-yard pass to pick up a first down and bring the ball to the 33. Then on 3rd and 3 from the 40, McCown went to Martin for a 4-yard pass to pick up the first down and bring it to the 44 of Tampa. On 3rd and 4 from the 50, McCown went to Rainey for a 6-yard pass, and that would bring the ball into Chicago territory at the 44 and pick up the first down. But then on 3rd and 7 from the 41, McCown dropped back to pass, and he was intercepted by Chris Conti, and the Bears would take over on their own 23 with a little less than 7 minutes left in the first quarter. And they would bring the ball to midfield and into Tampa territory, but then on 3rd and 15 from the 44 of Tampa Bay, Jay Cutler dropped back to pass, and he was sacked by McCoy for a 7-yard loss. McCoy forced the fumble, and McDonald recovered. So now the Buccaneers would take over on the Chicago 46 with about a minute and a half left in the first quarter. Then on 3rd and 9, McCown would drop back to passing at Seraphine Jenkins for an 11-yard reception that made it a first down on the 34 and brought the first quarter to a close. And after one, this game was knotted up at goose eggs. So to start off the second quarter, the Buccaneers had the ball on the Bears 34. Sims ran for 5 yards. And then on 2nd and 5 from the 29, Sims ran for 10 yards to pick up a first down. It was now a first down in the red zone on the 19. McCown dropped back to pass, and he hit the rookie Mike Evans for a 19-yard touchdown to put the Bucs on the scoreboard for the first score of this game, with it now 7-0 Tampa Bay over Chicago. So now the Bears would take over. They would end up with the ball at midfield after a 30-yard return by Fletcher, but they would end up punting the ball after they went 3 and out. So now the Buccaneers would get the ball, and they would go 3 and out as well and punt it back to the Bears, who would now take over with about 10 minutes left before halftime with the ball at midfield at the 50 exactly. And they would end up bringing the ball into Tampa Bay territory and attempting a 54-yard field goal, but it was no good, and the score remains 7-0 Tampa over Chicago. So now the Bucs took over with about 7 minutes left in the second quarter, and they would go 3 and out for the second consecutive possession. And the Bears now went 3 and out as well, as that was becoming somewhat of a trend at this moment. The Bucs now took over on their own 37 with about 5 minutes left in the second quarter, but after 5 plays, they would end up punting the ball from the 50. So now the Bears got the ball back with about 2.5 minutes left, but they would go 3 and out yet again. So now the Buccaneers would take over with less than 2 minutes left before halftime. They were backed up against their own end zone on their own 12-yard line. McCown then went to Evans for a 12-yard pass to make it a first down on the 24. And then McCown went to Murphy for a 54-yard pass, and there was a face mask on the play, and that would make it a first down on the 37. So now there was a false start, and that would push them back to the 42. And then it was 2nd and 15. They got another penalty, an illegal block, and it would end up being 2nd and 23, and an incomplete pass would bring up 3rd down. But on 3rd and 23 from the 50, McCown went to Vincent Jackson for a 27-yard reception that would make it a first down on the 23, and that forced the Bears to take a timeout. McCown then went to Rainey for a 4-yard pass, and then McCown went to Myers for a 9-yard pass. It was now a first down on the 10, but then the Bears came up with a huge sack as McCown was sacked by Ratliff for a 4-yard loss, and the Bucs now took their last timeout. They wouldn't pick up another first down, and out would come Patrick Murray to kick a 32-yard field goal. It was up, and it was good, and it was now 10-0 Buccaneers over the Bears. The Bears would end up returning the kickoff, and that would end up bringing the half to a close. So at halftime, the score was Tampa Bay 10, Chicago 0. So to open up the third quarter, the Buccaneers would get the ball first, but they would go 3 and out on their first possession of the second half. So now the Chicago Bears would get the ball at midfield on their own 42 with about 14 minutes on the clock in the third quarter. They got into Tampa Bay territory rather quickly, as they ended up with a 11-yard pass from Cutler to Marshall. And then Forte ran for 13 yards, and it was now first down on the 34. Cutler dropped back to pass, and he hit Bennett for a 26-yard reception, and that made it first and goal on the 8. Forte ran for 5 yards and then 1 yard, and it was now third and goal on the 2. They went for a pass. Cutler hit Jaffrey, and it was a 2-yard touchdown, and the Bears were finally on the scoreboard as it was now 10-7, Tampa over Chicago. The Buccaneers now got the ball with about 10.5 minutes left on the clock in the third. They had it on their own 20, but they would go 3 and out. So now the Bears got the ball, and they would end up going 3 and out as well, and the Buccaneers got the ball back with about 6.5 minutes left on the clock in the third. They had it on their own 22, but on 2nd and 8 from the 37 after they had picked up a first down, McCown dropped back, and he was sacked for a 12-yard loss by Bass. He fumbled the ball, and Jones recovered, so it was now Bears ball on the Tampa Bay 13 with about 5 minutes left in the third. On first down, they handed off to Forte, and he ran it all the way into the end zone for a 13-yard touchdown. The Bears took the lead for the first time in this game with the score 14-10, Chicago over Tampa Bay. So now the Buccaneers would take over on their own 16, and on first down, McCown dropped back to pass, and he was intercepted by Mundy. And now the Bears would take right back over on the Tampa Bay 15 as they would start their second consecutive drive in the red zone. So now on first down, Forte picked up 3 yards, and there was a penalty for a horse collar tackle. And that would make it first and goal on the 6. Forte picked up 5, and then Forte got stuffed for no gain. So now it was third and goal on the 1, and Forte punched it in from a yard out to make it 21-10, Bears over the Bucs. So now Tampa Bay would take over with about 3 minutes left in the third. They had the ball on their own 19. They would pick up a first down. They'd actually pick up a pair of first downs, but on 2nd and 7 from the Chicago 32 as they had gotten all the way into Chicago territory, McCown threw it to Vincent Jackson for a 24-yard reception, but he was blown up by Hurst as he forced the fumble, and Jennings recovered, and so now the Bears would get the ball right back as this quarter was about to come to a close. And they had it on their own 21, and Cutler hit Jeffrey for a 16-yard reception to make it a first down on the Chicago 37. And after 3 quarters of play, the score was Chicago 21, Tampa Bay 10. So now the Bears would open up the fourth quarter on their own 37, but they would end up having to punt the ball from the 40 as they would not get another first down on this possession. So now the Buccaneers would take over with about 13.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They had it on their own 22. They would end up having to punt the ball 5 plays later from their own 46. So now Chicago would get the ball with a little over 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They had it on their own 11-yard line. They did pick up a first down, but after 5 plays, they would punt the ball as well. This one would be from their 28-yard line. So now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would get the ball back with about 8 minutes left on the clock. They had it on their own 28, and on first down, McCown hit Murphy for a 17-yard reception to make it a first down on the Tampa Bay 45. They were then faced with 3rd and 10, and McCown hit Vincent Jackson for a 40-yard pass that made a first down in the red zone on the Chicago 15. But on first down, McCown was sacked by Washington for a 1-yard loss, and on second down, McCown was sacked by Paella for a 5-yard loss. So now it was 3rd and 16, and an incomplete pass would bring out Patrick Murray to attempt the 39-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and it was now 21-13 as the Buccaneers cut the Bears' lead to 8. So now the Bears would take over with about 5 minutes left in this game. They would go 3 and out and give the ball back to the Bucs. Now the Buccaneers would take over with about 3 minutes left. They had the ball on the Chicago 45. And on 3rd and 1, Sims got stuffed for no gain, and so now it would be 4th and 1. They would go for it, and then McCown kept it himself on the quarterback sneak, and they ended up having to bring out the chains to measure it, and it was ruled a turnover on downs as he was just shy, and the Bears would now take back over on their own 36 at the 2-minute warning. Forte lost a yard on first down, but they kept the clock going. He then picked up 5 on second down, and that brought up 3rd and 6, and they kept giving him the rock. He picked up another one as the clock kept ticking along. And now on 4th and 5, they would punt the ball, and the Bucs would take over with just 13 seconds left in the game on their own 37. And they decided to throw it up in the air, and they ended up, actually McCown had to run out of bounds to stop the clock, and on the final play, they did pick up a reception, but it was too little too late. And this game came to a close, and the Chicago Bears win their second game in Soldier Field with the score 21-13. And with the victory, the Bears are now 5-6 on the season, 2-3 at home, and the Buccaneers are 2-9, 2-4 on the road. And in this game, Jay Cutler was 17 for 27 with 130 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Josh McCown was 25 for 48 with 341 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. He also had 12 yards rushing off of 3 carries. The leading rusher in this game was Matt Forte. He had 23 carries for 89 yards. He also had 23 yards receiving off of 5 receptions. And he rushed for 2 touchdowns as well. The leading receiver was Vincent Jackson with 117 yards off of 5 receptions. Murray had 113 yards off of 6 receptions, Lewis Murray. And Mike Evans had 1 touchdown, 3 receptions, and 47 yards. And the leading receiver for the Bears was Bennett with 37 yards off of 4 receptions. But on defense, the leading tackler was a tie between Foster and Mundy. Ryan Mundy of the Bears had 8 tackles. He also had that interception. And over on the Buccaneers side, Mason Foster had 8 tackles. Of course, the Bucs didn't have any interceptions. They did have 3 sacks, as McDonald, McCoy, and Smith each had 1 sack. And the Bears combined for 5 sacks, as Paella had 2 sacks, Ratliff had a sack, Washington had a sack, and Bass had a sack. And as I said, Mundy had an interception, and as did Conti. So the Chicago Bears beat the Bucs as Lovie Smith makes his return to Chicago, as does McCown. And Jay Cutler gets the victory along with the Bears. And the final score, Chicago 21, Tampa Bay 13.